My name is Elodie. I am 34 years old. I never imagined that a single evening could split my life so cleanly into before and after, yet that is exactly what happened on a warm Sunday night at my mother-in-law's 65th birthday celebration. From the moment my husband and I drove up to the glittering restaurant, something felt wrong, though I couldn't explain why. The entrance was wrapped in gold ribbons. Music drifted through the glass doors, and laughter spilled out like a promise of joy. But beneath the polished surface, there was a tension I could almost taste. My husband's hand rested stiffly against my back as we walked inside. Not affectionate, not distant, just oddly formal, as if we were actors stepping onto a stage. I remember noticing how he avoided eye contact, how his smile looked rehearsed, how my stomach tightened without warning. The dining hall was breathtaking, filled with crystal lights and towering floral arrangements, every table crowded with relatives, friends, and people whose faces I recognized but whose names I barely remembered. Then I saw the head table. For a brief second, my mind refused to process what my eyes were clearly seeing. Sitting beside my mother-in-law, in the seat of honor, was a woman I knew far too well. Her posture was confident, her smile easy, her presence utterly devastating. I had seen her before, fleeting glances, unexplained messages, strange coincidences I had tried desperately to dismiss, but never like this. Never displayed so boldly, so shamelessly. The room seemed to tilt. Conversations blurred into noise. My heartbeat roared in my ears. No one rushed to explain. No one looked surprised. In that suspended moment, a cruel clarity settled over me, a truth too sharp to ignore. At my Mill's 65th birthday party, she seated my husband's mistress at the head of the table. The words formed in my mind with chilling precision, each one slicing deeper than the last. I scanned the faces around me, searching for discomfort, guilt, anything, but I found only curiosity, awkwardness, and a few poorly hidden smirks. My husband finally spoke my name, his voice low, urgent, almost pleading, yet it sounded distant, irrelevant, as though it belonged to another world. Rage did not explode inside me as one might expect. There was no dramatic confrontation, no shattered glass, no raised voice echoing through the hall. Instead, an icy calm took hold, steady and absolute. I didn't fight or argue. I just turned around and walked out. The decision required no effort. It was instinct, survival, dignity crystallized into motion. I felt dozens of eyes following me as I crossed the floor, but I did not slow, did not waver, did not give anyone the satisfaction of witnessing my pain. Outside, the night air struck my skin like a shock, cool and grounding. Only then did my hands begin to tremble. I walked without direction, past parked cars, past strangers, past the version of myself that had entered that building believing in loyalty and respect. My phone began vibrating before I even reached the end of the street. His name flashed again and again, relentless, desperate, almost frantic. I stared at the glowing screen, emotions colliding. Betrayal, disbelief, heartbreak. Yet beneath them all was something stronger. Resolve. That night, my husband called me 73 times. I declined every call and then blocked his number. Each rejected call felt like reclaiming a fragment of myself, like drawing a boundary that should never have been crossed. I did not cry. Not that night. The tears would come later, in quieter, lonelier moments. But in that instant, I felt strangely powerful, anchored by a certainty I had never known before. Some betrayals destroy you, others awaken you. As I finally lowered the phone and disappeared into the darkness, I understood that my silence was louder than any accusation, my absence more cutting than any argument, and my next steps, though still unknown, would no longer be dictated by deception or humiliation. Chapter 1 of my story did not end with revenge or reconciliation, but with something far more dangerous to those who underestimated me. I walked away without looking back. When I woke the next morning, the world looked deceptively normal, sunlight pouring through the curtains as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Yet inside me everything had shifted. Silence filled my apartment, heavy but clarifying, like the pause before a storm breaks. For years I had been a woman who explained, who justified, who tried to smooth discomfort into something manageable. But that morning I felt no urge to reach out. No temptation to unblock the number I had erased from my life only hours earlier. Instead, I replayed the scene with brutal precision, the glittering lights, the frozen smiles, the unbearable image of her sitting in the seat meant for family, meant for respect, meant for me. The humiliation was sharp, but beneath it burned a slow, steady anger that refused to dissipate. I knew something then with absolute certainty. What happened was not a misunderstanding. Not an accident, not a harmless social blunder. It was deliberate, calculated, cruel. At my Mill's 65th birthday party, she seated my husband's mistress at the head of the table. The truth had weight now, solid and undeniable, no longer a shocking moment but a defining reality. Friends began calling before noon, voices trembling with outrage and disbelief, each conversation confirming what my instincts already understood. People had known. People had whispered. Some had even suspected for months, watching the tension grow while I clung to faith in my marriage. Their sympathy was genuine, yet every revelation added another layer of betrayal, another fracture in the fragile structure of trust I once believed surrounded me. By afternoon, the messages changed tone. My husband's relatives reached out cautiously, offering explanations that were not explanations at all, claims of confusion, appeals to emotion, attempts to reframe the unforgivable as a simple mistake. But I had crossed an invisible threshold the previous night. I didn't fight or argue. I just turned around and walked out. That decision had not been weakness or shock. It had been the first act of reclaiming my dignity, and dignity, once awakened, does not easily retreat. Days passed, then weeks, and with distance came a clarity more powerful than rage. I began noticing the small inconsistencies I had once dismissed, late meetings, guarded screens, subtle defensiveness that now screamed with meaning. The puzzle assembled itself without mercy. Yet the most painful realization was not his deception, but the audacity of its public display. My mother-in-law had not merely tolerated the affair, she had endorsed it, elevating secrecy into spectacle, disrespect into celebration. That night, my husband called me 73 times. I declined every call and then blocked his number. What once sounded dramatic now felt like survival, like drawing a line that preserved whatever remained of my self-respect. Eventually, he stopped trying. The silence from his side was not peace but confirmation, an admission louder than apology. People often imagine betrayal as a sudden explosion, but in truth it is an erosion, a gradual stripping away of illusions until only reality remains. Mine arrived with devastating elegance, a single chair at a single table, occupied by the one person who should never have been there. And yet, strangely, that night became my awakening rather than my destruction. I rebuilt quietly, deliberately, piece by piece. I learned the difference between forgiveness and self-abandonment, between love and tolerance of disrespect. I discovered a strength that had nothing to do with revenge and everything to do with boundaries. Walking away had not ended my story. It had rewritten it. There was no dramatic confrontation months later, no cinematic closure, no grand confession that restored what had been shattered. Life rarely offers such neat resolutions. Instead, there was growth, resilience, and a new understanding of my own worth. Some losses hollow you out, but others carve space for something stronger. What they intended as my humiliation became my liberation. What they expected to break me revealed me. And if there is one truth my experience has etched into me, it is this. The moment you refuse to participate in your own disrespect is the moment your power returns. If my story stirred something in you, if you believe in strength, dignity, and knowing when to walk away, then stay with this journey and be part of a community that understands these battles. Subscribe to the channel, because some stories are not just told, they are survived. And the next one may speak directly to you.